the email did not send. So I say now when people register,
Yeah.
the email is supposed to go out to everyone who registers and they get like a free workbook. So I get into the webinar and I'm talking, thinking that everybody got the email, and I'm asking, so did you guys get the workbook? They were like, no. Did you guys get the email? Like, no. And I'm like, oh my God. So it kind of threw me off my loop, but I'm in the middle of the webinar and I have to keep on going. But now at the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, what went wrong? How do I fix it? How did that even happen? Basically, it just kind of throws you off in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in a way, these things happen more so than we would like them to be. They happen a lot. And so how do we navigate that space? At least I think for me, especially when I was navigating these new platforms, software platforms, I used to get so frustrated. I remember I would try to do, and I don't know about you, but these days you cannot get anyone on live phone calls for customer support. You either have to email them or text them, but it's very difficult to access people on the call. So when I have technical challenges, sometimes you send that email, you don't hear from them for like 3 days. Sometimes you don't hear from them for like a week, and then you kind of have these sequences in place where they are supposed to, like if I schedule a webinar, for example, that is supposed to go out on tomorrow, and then one of the links are not working, and then I don't hear from whoever is in charge of that link, it throws everything off.
Oh,
So
okay.
how do you manage that distress that comes along with it? Because it's so easy to get frustrated. And I'm one, as a business owner, that I don't want to bring bad reviews to someone's business because I know everyone tries to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
But the way this particular company was working with me, I was like, I'm just gonna give you a bad review. Even if I didn't, I tried to reach out to them and express my frustration, but it was very difficult. So for you, what have you experienced that have kind of thrown you off in a way that?
How I have learned to overcome these things, because I mean, it
Yeah,
happens to all of us, right? We all go
yeah,
through, little hiccups through the week, especially when you're a planner, right? For example, you plan your week and you have everything written up, you have your planner, you have your journal, you have your scheduler, and it's like, okay, this is how I'm going to work through the week. So one little hiccup that you may experience may throw everything after, right? Now things are not going
completely.
to go as planned. So I've learned, and I'm still, again, we're all learning. We're all, every day we come to a new trial, and we have to learn how to overcome that. And again,
Yeah,
this is something that we're growing and growing and growing every day. So for me, it's more of emotionally and mentally bring me to a better state of mind. Because what's done is done, right? And we can
yeah,
always say it
yeah,
happened, life happens, and there are things that we have no control over. So
absolutely.
the only thing that I have to remind myself that what I do have control of, it's my reaction and how I'm going to approach my reaction, because my reaction can either make the situation better or I can become part of the problem, right? And we become part of the problem when we are in our feelings and our emotions.
Yes,
So the very first thing I have to do is get out of that part, get out of my emotions and just think task, right? How do I go over the task? How do I
yes,
bring myself into peace? And everybody has their own different ways, right? Some people may say, you know what, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take a nap, or I'm going to work out, or maybe you set your atmosphere. I mean, if you're a religious person and you want to set your atmosphere with some worship music, or you want to pray, or you want to meditate. I mean, whatever it is that brings you to a place of peace, I would say that's your first to go to. That's
yeah,
hands
yeah,
down. This is something
yeah,
that you need to bring yourself down to. Let me refresh myself and take it from there.
yeah,
Because if you start to work under your
yeah,
feelings and your emotions, you won't be productive. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like everything is gonna get done halfway done, or not even halfway done, or done but not in the right way.
Yeah, I don't know if you realize, but what you just described, there is a skill in DBT that is called the wise mind, where you acknowledge what you're feeling, but
Yeah.
you don't act on it. and you acknowledge what you're thinking, but you don't act on it, but you
Okay.
act upon what you want to see happening. So you're focusing, I want to experience some peace, and that's what the first focus you have is like, let me remove myself from this situation, because if I don't do that, I'm gonna act on how I feel, and God knows where that's gonna go to,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so
And you have
like
to learn that, you know, it's
it
not
is a
something that you
skill.
naturally do, because my naturally first to go to would be lash out, for example,
Yeah,
right?
out of
Complain,
emotion. Yeah, out
like
of
I'll
emotion.
complain and then I'll say, you know what, I should have never done this. And then you start being hard on yourself and then you start
Yeah,
criticizing yourself. And
yeah,
instead of bringing yourself out of the situation, you dig
yeah,
yourself even more. And I
yeah,
think that this is where everything goes wrong,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, because I think even in our differences of temperament, when some temperaments are more into how they feel, so they react faster than they think, and some people think faster than they feel.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so as a result, a lot of times, when you act out of your emotion mind, you feel like I think the most important thing is we are conditioned to believe that everything is supposed to go well. So if you're feeling any form of distress, it shouldn't be there. Get out of it. What is the quickest way to get out of it so that your normal comes back in? We all, I think, as humans want normal. We want certainty. We want things to be predictable. Yeah.
Especially, you know, now that you mentioned temperaments, right? I'll give you a quick example, which it might be, you know, it might be a good thing for people that are listening to us, that will realize that I'm not the only
Yeah.
person who has a blended temperament. And this is why I
Yeah.
think that, you know, it's so important to know your temperament so you know how to
Yeah.
balance those things. So I'll give you
Yeah.
an example of myself. In my inclusion area, which is all my social orientation, I'm a sanguine phlegmatic, right? What does
Yeah.
that mean? I want to be everywhere. I want to talk to everyone, and I just want to be people person, right?
Yeah.
But in my control area, I'm a melancholy compulsive. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm totally task oriented. I'm
Yeah.
a planner. I'm afraid of the unknown. And again, these are all tendencies that we get the chance to grow in them and learn how to navigate your own temperament and your own decision making in the midst of your weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
When I'm thinking task, because I have tons of things to do and I'm a planner and I want things, you know, as a melancholy, I don't like loopholes. I like to keep everything,
In a
especially if I'm
system.
working, yeah, especially if I'm working in unknown areas where I don't want to make
Yeah.
mistakes, because I'm not allowed to make mistakes in my mind, right?
Exactly.
But then my sanguine gets in a way where I want to be invited to places. So now I said yes. Now I have to commit to that. But then I have tons of things to do. So now I'm out there, but I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm frustrated
Yeah.
because in my mind, I have so many things to tend to that I
Yeah.
left because I wanted to socialize.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and, and so you get angry, you get miserable, you start overthinking because the melancholy is there, which I'm overthinking
Yeah.
that I could have gotten so much done had I said no, you
Yeah.
know. So these are things that you have to commit to yourself.
Yeah.
And when you take priority of the things that, okay, I'm making a list of what I need to do for the week,
Yeah.
for the day, or even for the month, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're saying no. Now you learn how to remove yourself from certain situations.
Yeah.
You learn how to dedicate that time for your spiritual self, for
Yeah.
your exercising time, which will relieve,
Yeah.
you know, some stress and things like that. But you have to be mindful of those things.
Absolutely.
If you
It's
don't know those tools, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be let down. You're going to start
yeah.
criticizing yourself because you didn't get enough
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we have to say, okay, stop.
Yeah.
Let's lay everything down to the
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
breathe, meditate, pray, or whatever your preference is of how
Yeah.
to calm yourself down, and then start all over again.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of, when you're describing that, I could literally see that difference. When a kid is going through a very difficult, distressful moment, they don't have the cognitive capabilities to handle the stress. So they just cry or they sit down and throw a tantrum, so that's where a grown-up comes in and helps the kid to navigate that space. But when you're an adult and you don't know how to do those skills, it really could be very frustrating. I think, like you feel stuck and you feel so upset that you should know how to do this. And this is why we are trying to encourage you guys to be able to understand how to develop skills, because even the awareness of knowing your temperament is the beginning, one of the beginning stages. When you become aware, you're more accepting, because even as a melancholy as you are, my melancholy is in control when it comes to making decisions and taking on responsibilities. I am more uh in the melancholy where I need to have that. I need to know what's going to happen. I need that security. I don't function well in the unknown territory. And I remember when I was just new in understanding my temperament, I used to go to the library a lot. And then when I would go to the library, if I would get a phone call, so I had time, I would be at the library for like 9 hours, 10 hours, or sometimes a whole day. So if I'm on the way to the library, it opens at 9 or 10, and I'm on my way at 8:40, and then I get a phone call between 8:40 that goes into like 9:15. My melancholy would interpret that I've wasted the day, because I wanted to be at the library at 9 a.m. Now it's 9:15. So the ability to make that little adjustment without interpreting it that I've wasted the day, I had to train my mind to know how to interpret, like, you know what, that was just 15 minutes off of the 9 o'clock, but you still have X amount of hours left in the day. But because I'll be just stuck there, like I've wasted my day. Why? Because I've lost 15 minutes off of the hour that the library opened. So developing the skills to understand how to manage that stressful moment. Again, learning to know what your temperamental needs are. Like, we need consistency, like melancholies. We need that consistency. We need the security. We need the structure. So when we don't have that and one thing throws us off, we like everything is thrown off. So we had to train our mind to know how to re-engage. And one of those skills also is like everyday acceptance. It is what it is. This is what life looks like. You plan things, but sometimes they don't go as they planned.
Absolutely. Then you know what's my to-go-to phrase when I feel that I feel unaccomplished is,
Yeah.
I'm doing so much better today than what I did yesterday.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
especially when we set goals, right? We're constantly letting ourselves down because, New Year resolution, I'm getting back into the gym and I'm gonna work out. And then sometimes you start on very, very hard and then you just burn yourself out because you didn't
Yeah.
have that control of,
Yeah.
starting in a small beginning so you can enjoy the process, right? Because the process sometimes is more important than the progress.
Yeah.
You get more
Yeah.
out of the process, right?
Yeah.
So learning to say, I did it, right? Like I started and it may be going slowly, but I'm
Yeah.
getting there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I tell myself all the time. You know what? I may not have it all together right now. There are areas that I'm lacking in so many different, parts of
Yeah.
my personal self, as my
Yeah.
career or my job or even with my family. And
Yeah.
say, I am doing so much better than I did 6 months ago. So
Yeah.
you learn to acknowledge the process between 6 months ago and where you are
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So you learn how to have,
Yeah.
mercy for yourself. You learn how to be content with the progress that you've made. And
Yeah.
I think that just loving yourself enough to give you the room for
Yeah.
growth and
Yeah.
self-criticism, but the good one, not the bad one. You can criticize yourself to encourage yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
acknowledge the things that you can do better, not for pity, but yes, to grow.
Yes. Yes.
You
And I think even when we think about melancholy, like, I don't know about you, but I remember I grew up in a boarding school. When I look back and I'm like, how do people handle like 100 or 200 7-year-olds, in one shot? You
Yeah.
don't have time for that. Of course, you're gonna be very starved, like you have to be rigid with your structures. Even with people who uh, teach like pre-kindergarteners and preschoolers and things like that, you have to develop a structure to gain some form of control over these situations.
Yeah.
So when your temperament is more structured and then these are your experiences, sometimes our interpretations of what's happening now is associated with what happened then.
Yeah.
So if you got into trouble in kindergarten for not sitting in your chair, now when something falls off, you interpret you're going to be in trouble and you don't know how to navigate that space. And I think this is when you're developing skills, you can handle present moment without interpreting them through the past. Because it's like the traumatic interpretations can persist in our present, you know?
And that's one thing that I like to focus in counseling, I would say,
Yeah.
you know, dealing with that little kid that we all carry that is hurt and
Yeah.
it experienced some sort of trauma, because some people may think that trauma is only physical, sexual, but let me tell you, verbal trauma, it's horrible. You know, neglected trauma, it's something that many children experience, you know, so and I always, you know, like I could never say that I have daddy issues, right? Because this is like a very popular phrase nowadays with, you know, with so many broken families and the daddy is not at home. So there's, you know, there is such a thing as having daddy issues. But when it comes to my dad being at home, right? My parents been married for about 53 years now, but just acknowledging that my dad was not a present father, even though he was in the household.
Yes, yes.
Left an emptiness within myself. So
Yes.
I had
Yes.
to recognize that and learn how to deal with that little child that did not have some sort of attention.
Yes.
So that I cannot have the outburst of that 7 and 8 and 9-year-old child when I'm angry and when my needs are not being met.
Exactly.
Because it only takes you there. And
Yes.
if you've noticed people that have those bad reactions and bad outbursts, they act like a child. Why do we act like a child? Is because we never dealt with those, you know, childhood situations and traumas and emotions that we're dealing with. So that is definitely something that I like to trigger those parts through counseling and, you know, through the whole emotional part of discovering yourself and discovering why you react the way you react. And this is definitely something that is still triggers us today. And that doesn't only happen to people who went to trauma, as in, you know, quote unquote trauma, but it happens to all of us.
Like there are different types of trauma. There is like what they call like trauma type A and type B, like trauma where the things that happen that shouldn't have happened, and then the things that never happened that should have happened. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so I think sometimes when we get stuck, and I think as counselors, this is why we do what we do, because a lot of people have never been parented. Like you could have grown up with both parents in the home, but still never been parented, never been given the skills, the tools to deal with life as an adult. And so when people come into counseling spaces, we're able to identify who they are based upon their temperament, how they tend to interact with the environment, and then what their potential stressor or trigger points may be, even as we give them the skills and the tools in a way for them to learn how to cope with uncertainty or just things that throw you off the loop, you know, even things like, you know, how I've had this story more than one time where a person got fired or they had a very stressful work environment and then they quit and they killed themselves. You know, and they killed themselves. So these are not like light things that people need to learn to cope with, and like the stressful moments that happen on a regular basis. But some people don't really have the skills and they take their own lives. You know, and then everyone is like, well, I thought that everything was going great. What happened? You know, without realizing that they were suffering on the inside. They were suffering on the inside. So what would you be your closing out today encouragement tip that you'll give someone who may be thrown off their balance?
My encouragement would be, number one is to acknowledge that there is something wrong, you know, but listen to your emotions, right? Because our emotions are our signals, right? Like our emotions will signal when something's going wrong and when something's going right? I mean, our emotions will let us know. Just like if I have a headache or I have some sort of pain and I go to the doctor, I'm dying, but I need to take care of that situation. Our emotions is the same thing. So I would definitely encourage everyone to acknowledge their emotions and then question your emotions.
Yeah.
And say, okay, why do I feel the way that we feel? Let me start digging in those things. And not for
Yeah.
1 minute think that you speaking to someone that can give you the tools to discover those things
Yeah.
means that there's something wrong with you, because that's
Yeah.
not it, you know?
Yeah.
We need to be taught, because we don't, who's teaching us these things?
Yeah.
Who's teaching us that there are tools to grow in our emotions, in our thinking?
Yeah.
Who gives us the tools to say, you can work in your weaknesses, and you can
Yeah.
overcome fears, and you can
Yeah.
overcome doubt, and you can overcome anything that is stopping you from growing just by speaking
Yeah.
to someone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you learn new experiences,
Yeah.
you learn how to deal with those little hiccups that may come in the way. So
Yeah.
that is definitely something that I would want to encourage everyone listening to us right now,
Yeah.
that you don't have to have a mess in your life in order for you to maintain your life, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
growth is as
Yeah.
important as you growing personally as it's
Yeah.
important as growing emotionally, because it is your emotions that is going to dictate the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll close up by saying that, that one of the skills we talked about is like the everyday acceptance.
Yes.
That sometimes life doesn't go the way we would want it to go, but we can just pause and just accept it.
Yeah.
This is what it is, and accept it without judging it to be right or wrong, and just kind of master, like you say, evaluate what you want to do in that space so that you can take the next step, the next action, so that you don't react out of how you feel or irrational thinking.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So we'll be back here next week and we'll talk more into equipping you with skills, relationship skills, just skills to grow in our understanding of self and life and relationships. So thank you for
Maybe
tuning
one of our listeners can write down in the
Yes.
video and say, what is something that you're interested on? Well, give us
Yes.
a topic. What would you want us to explain or even talk about in our next video that can
Yes.
teach you and can teach many, many people that are experiencing the same
Yes.
thing.
Subscribe, follow us, and my handle is Forerunner Counseling. Website is .com. And then you can go to my YouTube channel is at Weekly Wisdom, Damali at Weekly Wisdom. So Melissa, how do they find you?
They can find me, my website is newcreationscounseling.org. My Instagram, you can find me on my Instagram at New Creations Counseling NJ. And my YouTube channel is coming up soon.
Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Share the video, leave comments, and like the video.
Yes.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.